Still waiting. I don't think it showed up yet.
It's on.
We're going to start in about 30 seconds, guys.
Whether it's Red Robin Burgers at home or place.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the Real Live Show. I'm your host, the Real Jimmy Roberts 1, and for this first episode, the inaugural episode, I guess you could call it the pilot, we have with us a very distinguished guest. Well, I'll tell you what, let's not stretch it. But Chris Maroney, many of you know who he is already. He is the captain of a popular YouTube channel, Mars Anomalies and Beyond. And Chris, I decided to have him on here as the first live guest, because Chris is one of the guys that thinks like I do in terms of really digging into these things and trying to find the truth, not stretching puppets and dragons into reality, but trying to really find the truth and in Mars, the moon, and beyond. And tell you what, we're going to try to tune this guy in right now. Breaker 19, you got your ears on, son?
Bring it on, Big Daddy.
There he is. Hey, y'all, we got Chris Maroney with us. Again,
What's
his
going on,
YouTube
everyone?
channel is Mars Anomalies and Beyond. Chris has been doing this stuff for a while, and the Beyond, I think, takes us quite a ways. Chris, for those that don't know, why don't you tell us how you got into this and what your channel's about, man?
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes back some years. I started looking at a lot of these moon photos and Martian photos, and goes all the way back to like '97 when we had the Sojourner rover. Then, of course, 2004 we had our Opportunity and Spirit rovers. Then 2012 our Curiosity rover at present, and of course we got our 2020 going up there now. But before I started doing these videos, I looked at these photos and said, "Man, they're covering something up in this." And I remember Will from What's Up in the Sky. I remember him. I was watching one of his videos one day, and I'm looking at him and saying, "Man, what is with the outlines in here? I see what looks like." And I use the term ghosted. It looks like this thing's ghosted in it, because what it looks like, there's an overlay and there's a manipulation going over these objects that are all over the ground and what we're seeing in these so-called buttes and mountains. So I decided, man, I got to stop making videos. I've got to. I got to show the people what I'm seeing. And again, we can only speculate as to what a lot of these things are, but the thing is, they're anomalous, and that's what that means. It stands out from its rest of its surroundings. So we speculate as to what it can be, and then we just say, "Hey, listen, I always ask my subs, what do you think it is?" So that's pretty much it. I mean, and I started doing more of the moon because I got lunar anomalies and beyond as well, because that's where it all started. I mean, just picture yourself as an astronomer, and you're looking at the moon, even way back when, because I mean, they go back to what, 1600s as far as the telescopes. But of course, they're a lot more refined as we, technology comes about. And then, of course, they see something on the moon that doesn't belong to us, and this is where all these Apollo missions come from. But prior to that, we had the LROC, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter camera. So, there's a lot of crazy things on that moon, and that's where it's all started. And if they lied, or covered up anything on the moon, guess what? It just stands to reason they would do the same thing about Mars as well. So, yeah.
Well, I need you to know that Mars X3D, the evidence, David Gannett, just says that we both really look realistic. I promise you, Dave, that at least one of us is real. I can guarantee that, but I'm not telling you which one. And check this out. We got
So
we
you're
got
saying
some
something
watching
about the
from
audio being low.
Lima, Peru.
Who's saying that your audio is low? Is he saying I'm low?
Who's low?
He's saying I am, I think. Let me just check here. Let me see what my end is here on this end. Let me take a look. Now, let's see. I'm way up there. I'm cranked way up here. I'm like 70 here.
Well, I just turned you up.
All right, let's just test that out, see what that does here.
Is he doing any better?
It says stream volume is low. Should be all right. Let me see what I got on this thing. Yeah, it's a little bit lower than it typically should be, but
Well, we're trying to correct that. I got you pulled up some now.
yeah. I mean, I can crank mine up a little bit more too, so give it a little bit more volume here if we need to. Let's crank this bad boy up to about 90. I don't know how much better that is. We'll see what that does. Chris Dyson said, "Sounds good, thanks." Some people say, to be honest, it's high enough.
Okay, sounds good. I lost the name. I believe it's Carlos. We got a got someone watching from Lima, Peru, and I don't know that I've ever seen anyone from Peru in on my videos up to this point, but we do want to say hola. Um, so obviously Mars is mentioned in the title of your
Mhm.
channel, and you say beyond, and everyone needs to understand that Chris really does go beyond Mars. To me, he's one of the premier moon guys, and people have asked me to do more on the moon. I did quite a bit at one time, and it just got to where everyone was so interested in Mars. But you know what? The key to it all may be the moon. And Chris recently had a video on his channel, Mars Anomalies and Beyond, where he exposed some things that were going on the moon on the surface. And first of all, before we get into this, we've got some images that, look, when you walk away from this, you're going to say, you know what? If you didn't know this before, you're going to be able to say, and I think Chris will agree, there's something's going on. You've got to get it out of your head that it can't be. You can't worry right off the bat as to why they're hiding it. We can try to figure all that stuff out later. The main thing is you need to see that it's going on. And once you see that it is going on, then maybe we can try to figure out why they don't believe we need to know this. Now, as you know, the moon going way back has been associated with all things weird. For whatever reason, you got the root word for lunatics, and any nurse, anyone, including my wife, Martian Missy, will tell you if you've worked in a hospital and an emergency room, that if you've got a full moon, it's a absolute fact that things are going to be crazier on a full moon. Nobody seems to know why this is. The moon has also been said to associate with ties to our monetary system, MON, Monday, day of the moon, because we do tie our monetary system, which MON is involved in all of this, to the days of the week, the weeks of the month, the phases of the moon. Everything, there's so many things that are tied into the moon. Now, there's a lot of people that think the moon's artificial. A lot of people think, well, no, it's not artificial. It's natural, but there may be somebody there. And you know what? Right now, it's not going to matter whether it's artificial, natural. What we need to know is somebody there? Has somebody else been there besides us? And I think we've got some images here that are going to really make you become a believer. Now, Chris, you got anything to add to that before we show them something?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying this for a long time on my channel. I think, I don't think we really know about our moon. In other words, even back in the day, like I said, when we first started looking at the moon, what's the first thing you would do if you're an astronomer and you see something on there? The first thing you do is, oh my God, what is that? Why is it there? So now, of course, like I said, we had the Apollo missions. Now, I don't know how many Apollo missions you need to do to pull moon rocks back, moon dust, stuff of that matter. To me, it was a recon mission. It had nothing to do with the dust and rocks. I think that was nothing more than a recon mission, because what they were really up there is for what's up there. You can see what looks like dilapidated spacecraft. You can see structures. The last one I just did was like mega structures. Anybody who's on here, and I see a couple of my subs on here as well, they know exactly what I'm talking about. And I told them this. I said, listen, I did this. Now I like to use the term hidden in plain sight. Why? Because it absolutely is. You can look at, a lot of the shadow areas, not really see anything until I made the video, edited it, and as I was playing it back to make sure I didn't have any errors in there, I looked and I said, "Oh my God, I can't believe I missed this." I've never seen anything like it on the moon until this photo. And if you haven't been convinced, you will be now. You know, like sometimes, Jimmy, you can look at something and go, you can tilt your head to the left, you can tilt it to the right, you're looking upside down. Is that what I think? Maybe it's not. It's a trick of light,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
This, once all I do is just brought the exposure up and bam, that's all I did to this thing. And if it had any white spots or anything, I just emphasized on them, just brought them out a little bit. That was it. And this whole area, and keep in mind, guys, this is on the backside of the moon. This is not where a telescope can see it. So, and a lot of people speculate that there was probably, you know, uh, a lot of civilizations, or at least, somebody on the moon. And it makes sense that they would have it in the backside. So anybody living on the moon, I'm sorry, on Earth would not see them. It makes perfect sense. Now, I speculate that there's more than one civilization that's ever been on this moon. And the reason why I say that is because I said this before, and I didn't know this, to be honest with you. It totally opened up a whole new way of thinking. There was a scientist who said that back, 65 million years ago, our solar system was in a totally different area of the universe. I started to think, is it possible that some aliens, and I don't mean like little gray guys with little, walnut eyes, I mean people that may be similar to us, might have leapfrogged from planet to planet into our solar system and used our moon at some point. Maybe they mined it. Who knows? Again, pure speculation. But the thing is, if that's true, these these beings could have been from anywhere. We have no clue. So whatever's on this moon, it could have been multiple civilizations actually went to that moon, or other beings could have been on that moon, used it, just left stuff there, and off they went. And as crazy as that sounds, I see it in the photos. It's right there in front of you, man. And after you see this photo, this is funny because after you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
just like it's burned into your brain after that. You just go, oh hell, I didn't even know that was there, but it is. It's absolutely there.
Speaking of
Um,
things you can't unsee, well, I just saw a comment I can't unsee, and I'm gonna, yeah, but roller coaster ride says hello from Liverpool. I always try to acknowledge the home of one of the greatest bands of all times, Liverpool, England. And if you don't know who that is, well, we'll talk to you later about that. Um, these images that we will be displaying, and I'm going to pull one up first. I'm going to save Chris's for a minute. I love this so much. But I've been hoarding some images. I've shown some of them, and they don't get a lot of attention by the media. They won't touch it. All of
nope.
these images that we have, we obtained from NASA, either a NASA site or NASA endorsed site that is housing their archives.
Mhm.
And in fact, the Lunar and Planetary Institute website, these guys some years back took on the project for NASA of digitizing some 20,000 images, mostly Apollo missions. There were Gemini images as well. They took these images and digitized them and put them up on their website on the archives. And I heard about this and I got a little interested in it because we've all heard of, well, let me take this back. Maybe we haven't all heard of it, and we'll get into that in a minute, but the picture scrubbing, Chris has probably talked to some of these people like I have that actually were either participating or been around people that did it. And I just got to thinking, maybe they missed some things, because my understanding is when they went and digitized these images many, several decades later and put up on the Lunar and Planetary Institute website, that there was no interest in scrubbing anything because that had already been done.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking maybe they missed some things. Well, we're going to go to Apollo 14. Now, that was 1971. I want to show you one of the images I found on their website. Now, Chris mentioned something a few minutes ago about brightening up the picture. And he'll tell you real quick that there's always, not skeptics, but probably cynics out there will say, oh, you changed the picture, it's invalid. That's just not necessarily true. And especially when all we're doing is brightening. We understand digital imagery, and we know that artifacts can be added to it. We know this happens, and we're very careful about this. Well, I'm going to tell you, this first image didn't do anything to it. You can go right there right now, and I believe it's still there. You can pull this up yourself and download it. As far as I know, they have not taken this down. Now, let's hop over here and look at this thing real quick. Ah, there we are. There is Alone. This is image 9,911, 9911, and it's actually listed, and I should have had a graphic up for this, as AS14. That's for Apollo 14-71. That's the year. 9911. By the way, that was Shepard, Rusa, and Mitchell. And Apollo 14 actually had actual number was 1,338 images, and there was 14 magazines. Now this is magazine T-Tom, and this was 70 millimeter. I guess it was it Hasselblad? How did you say that? Do you remember?
Hasselblad.
Yeah, Hasselblad film. Very, very nice, state of the art stuff for that time. And you notice something on the kind of the center left. There's a little dot, a white dot. And let's zoom into that. What could this be? Okay, take a good look at that, folks. I'm going to have a lot of trouble with somebody trying to reason this away as a spot on the lens or a flake or a hair on the film. Take a good look at this. Now, we don't know the size of it. We don't have a reference. We don't know how close it was to the lunar module, but it's there. We know who took this picture. We know when they took this picture, and they missed it. Now, I'm going to back out of this and go to the next image of the same thing where we're actually able to zoom in a little bit closer to this. And there it is. I want you to take a good look at this. Someone is going to have to explain to me once again how this is anything other than a non-human operated spacecraft. Chris, did we have anything like this in 1971, or do we have anything like this now?
No, probably not. And here's the funny part, don't get me wrong. A lot of these images did have, blemishes on them. They had scratches in the film. They had hair follicles on there. These things were stored in, files and stuff for years and years, right? But what you'll find is a lot of times, and I like what you've done with this image, because a lot of times you'll find that they'll try to make something look like a blotch when there's something actually there, again, kind of hidden in plain sight, and they can pass it off easily by saying, oh, no, that was just a blotch on the film. It's clearly not that.
Oh, they should have scrubbed this out in 1971. Now, I see a lot of, someone says giant turret. Well, I can see that. It has antennas. It's an amoeba, giant flying fish. Someone called it a flea. That is because of these antenna-like devices coming out of it. And here's one of the more interesting things I see is it's got what appears to be landing skids to me.
Yeah, it's got like a flat bottom.
Yes, it's got a flat bottom, and it looks like something that would be
angled up.
Right.
Yeah.
That you would sit down maybe on a rocky terrain. I don't want to say that this object here right, let's see, to the upper right is, I don't know, propulsion. I don't know what that is, but it's on the back side of it. I would think this would be the front end of it. And, there's a canopy. You can see it's a semicircle right here, kind of going up and over. You can actually see segmented areas. And pretty quick, a lot of people are going to say that this may be the head of the pilot and the neck, and I'm not going to say it is, or I'm not going to say it isn't. I don't know how large this craft is. Now, I want to bring this up in another image to where we actually did do a little bit of a contrast work on it to see if we could bring something else out of it. And I find it quite interesting, an area such as, let's see, right here by my finger, you can see this. It almost looks like a silver donut right here.
Mm-hmm.
The most interesting thing to this, in this area, is going to be right here. There appears to be a clamp. Now, you see this section right here, parallel to my finger, where the top clamp and the bottom clamp are pinched together, like pinchers. That's what that appears to be to me, because I'm pretty certain that we're seeing the other side through it right here where my cursor is. Is this the head of a pilot and the neck and the body? It looks like it could be. I just don't know what these antennas are. And someone, we showed this in one of our trial runs the other day. I brought this up, this image. And someone mentioned, isn't it funny that even they use two antennas?
Mm-hmm.
Like our insects, two antennas. And then for the
I mean,
longest...
is it possible? Is it possible these things are just straight out and they're just full of sensors built into it?
Sure,
I
anything's
mean,
possible.
we don't know. We have no. It may appear as an insect kind of thing to us, but we don't know if
Right.
there's multiple, sensors and all kinds of things just sticking, out in front of this craft. We don't know.
And look at this canopy.
Yep.
Of course, when you do this, you gain some definition and you lose some, Chris. You've done that as well. You start looking through here and you can see a little bit right in this area. And I want you to look at this. See this line going up. It goes over and then it goes up again. You can see a little bit of design work back there. And I don't know, the only reason we got this image is because light was reflecting off of it and it was really bright. So that's why we got these real bright spots and these spots that aren't so bright. This area that looks like possibly be a clamp. Now, I took liberty here. I made a little graphic, and I keep in mind that the size is not going to be proportionate because we don't know how big this thing is. But if it were larger than the Apollo 14 module, this is what I'm talking about right here. You can see it pass through. I believe there's 3D there, and I believe these are some type of it's a mechanical grabber. That's all I know to call it. But I believe we have a 3D-ness right there in that area. Now, this is not the only image from Apollo 14 that you can see something without having to use any filters, no brightness, anything. This happens to be image 9906. And notice this dot down here on the lower right. Well, let's bring this up. What do we have here? Another lit vehicle, it looks like to me, or something that's out there in space. We're going to bring that up closer.
You know that it looks eerily like the Black Knight satellite. It's
Well,
actually got that funky kind of shape to it.
Well, somebody tell me, because there it is, brought up close.
Now, keep in mind they can literally paint over this thing. Back in the day, they used an acetate over these photos, right?
That's right.
So it's basically a clear piece of paper. Clear piece of film, and of course they can airbrush in that area right on top of the original, and then take a photo of it and block out everything they want to, or they could just directly, basically airbrush or marker out anything they wanted back in the day. People don't think they didn't have Photoshop, but you know what? They weren't dummies either. These guys were state of the art. They said, listen, if we're going to put this stuff out in the public, 100%, we need to make sure we can hide this. But they didn't anticipate people getting computers, Photoshop. And people, like you said, you made a great point earlier. People were like, well, you brought up the brightness or whatever. You did this, that, and the other. So clearly, you mess with the photo. Are you messing with the photo? Or are you reversing the manipulation? If they made it dark, make it light. If they made it super colors to confuse your eyes, make it black and white. So this way you can cut through the BS, which tricks your eyes, and that's what people need to understand.
That's right, Chris. And Inhabit Mars here, and he was talking about the previous image. Inhabit Mars says where they're located, they look like gun turrets. I'm not going to say they're not. I don't know. Maybe they are. Similar to deck guns on a ship, the whole thing looks like it can pivot and tilt. Yes, I saw that pivot and tilt area. I know exactly what you're talking about. Oh, this is very interesting. Well, Tom Stacy mentions those lines I was showing on the surface of that previous object. He says it goes up, it goes 45 degrees, and then back straight up again. Yes, it does. That's exactly what it looks like. It looks, the whole thing. I mean, there's just no doubt it is an intelligently designed something. I'm sorry, this isn't a piece of trash floating around up there, folks, and neither is this. And, this may very well be the underside of something. It's just really hard to tell. Now we got a few more here, and this is going to kind of lead up to what Chris has, because what Chris has is on the surface. And if we're going to believe that there's any chance of something having constructed buildings on the surface of the moon, you would think that there probably would have been caught in some images flying around. So I want to establish the fact that this is going on around the moon. And if you ever heard the stories, especially was it on Apollo 11, when it kind of got out some of the stories about there was so much traffic, it scared these guys, And if you've ever watched anyone, you need to go watch the press conference of these guys when they got back.
I mentioned it multiple times.
Man, they were dumbfounded and sitting there twirling pencils around. Something was wrong, and I wonder. Now, this is another image, and this is from also. These are all Apollo 14-9. This is going to be 9982, and I happened to see something. Now, here's possibly a piece of trash or something. I saw something right here. This is the way that they delivered it to the site. That looks like something is going to be out there to me. So this is one of those opportunities I took to increase the exposure on it. That's why the moon is so bright here. I didn't choke it back. And this is what we end up with, is this. And, I got to say, that really doesn't necessarily look like the first object, but it looks a lot like the second one. And I would think we would be looking at the underside of it, but I can't say that for a fact because I don't know who these guys are. Let's get a closer look at this. Okay, there it is. I think that's out there. And I'm going to tell you, on these images, when it's not really out there and bright like the first couple, one of the things you can see and tell if it's something on the film and not is you'll see a little bright spot on there. When you increase that exposure, you'll realize that bright spot is a reflection from the sun or whatever light source it's using. It's going to be the sun. It's a reflection. Some of them, it appears to be stars, but when you brighten that up, there's something behind it, and it's a reflection. The things that are hairs and so on and so forth on here, everything lights up real bright when you increase the exposure, and I'm going to show everyone that here. Move on to a couple more real quick, and this is an example of that. This is one where I saw something. This is 9903 from Apollo 14, and I saw something here, and so I brought up the exposure a little bit. Originally, they looked like just kind of bright stars, and I ended up with that. And up here, we ended up with, where is this guy? We ended up with this, not very bright. That looks like it may be something as well. So let's take these out of here and see what we got. There's the first one. Now, Chris, that just, that doesn't look like a piece of fuzz on the film to me.
Well, no, and I agree. I mean, again, we can only purely speculate, right?
Exactly.
But to me, we don't know unless you're watching the skies constantly around the moon or even anywhere, just shooting anywhere out in any direction of Earth. Unless you're doing that, you're not going to know what's really flying around out there. And how many times have NASA cut the feed on the ISS when people are watching it? Oh, we got to switch over to another camera, so then we're going to go ahead and jump over to this. Or there's a technical problem. Let's go ahead and shut that off. So many people have caught that where there's things floating around. Now, granted, there are some things that are our own stuff, whether it's space trash or, something that's just no longer functional. It's just continue to orbit until it goes into orbit and burns up. But some of these things, you can say, well, some of it may be garbage on their film, but then some things you go, wow, there's just no way. These things, some of these things are phenomenal.
Right. That's why I wanted to establish this with that first image. That's just so kind of in your face that, there's something going on, to consider the possibility of all this, other stuff. And this is that second one that we saw there. And I want to bring to everyone's attention, see these bright spots, 1, 2, 3. Now go back and look at the original. What you're going to see is it looks like 3 little stars sitting there, but these are reflections of the sun where it's hitting it. It's coming off bright. And when it is just a star, you don't see all this.
Yep.
And let's bring up this third one. We threw brightness and contrast on this. Now, you know what? I don't know what to think about this. This wasn't what I expected to find on this when it looks like something to me. It looks like
And that looks like
something.
it's quite large too. When you
It
had it banked out, it looked like it was quite large.
And once again, folks, you can see these. Now we did bring the the exposure up on this. These really bright areas is what tells me this is probably something out there, because these are the areas here that is reflecting the sunlight.
Well, more importantly, too, you have to look right where you pointed at with the bright spots. You said the bright spots. Look at that section of blur.
Yeah, right here.
No, go to your left. That the brightest spot right there. You can see it.
Yes.
All right, see that blur right there? Why is there a blur right there? It's one thing if it's an artifact on the film, it should be clear. Well, when I say clear, I don't mean like a perfect shape, but I mean you shouldn't see blurred out areas like it was intentionally put there to blur part of that out. So is that a craft and we're just not seeing all of the detail to it?
Well, and
Could very well be.
and it's strange that they would even try to blur that, because it really wasn't that visible in the original. It's just I saw the bright spot, and when I brought it forward, all this showed up. I don't know, Chris. That it's it's worth thinking about. Got a few more here, and folks, I've got 100 of these though, and we're just going to show a few. There several years ago, I went through these, and I said, you know what, I'm done. I've got hundreds of these. Something's going on.
You can go tap into these things for years.
This is from 9905, Apollo 14, and I was pointing out here that I don't know, but it appears something is coming over the horizon. Can't really tell, but because of the reflections on it, I think something is there. We get a lot of these things floating around out here that I've really tried to figure out whether these are something on the film, artifacts, or they are the cigar type spacecraft that people have reported. They're not lined up perfectly. They're not synchronized. They look like, to me, they look like big cigar-shaped balloons floating around the moon.
Yeah.
You'll see them in several places. But the one on here that I find most interesting is going to be up here at the very top. This guy right here. Let's bring him in closer. Here's another one that I have trouble discarding this. To me, it looks like we're looking at the underside of something that's flying around up there. And we just don't have enough, we don't have digital information. Maybe didn't have enough information on the original film, if that's what you want to call it, because this was their second generation. And we don't know that they didn't take a picture of the first one. Like you said, a lot of times they would put a piece of film over that original and they would scrub over it and take a picture of that. And we don't know whether they actually kept those originals. That'd probably be a question for Ken Johnston, because I know the things that were released to the public would have been the rephotographed images with the film over it. And we're not going to show that today, but from Apollo 13, I believe I've got really good evidence with some really good craft in that one where you can see the film along the edge of it, because there's a definite difference in the color in that and the actual color of the moon. But we'll get with that another time. Okay. And this one, this is the last one we're going to look at here, and we're going to go over Chris's image. This is, Chris, do you recognize this? It's the moon, right? It is the far side of the moon. And this was the first really complete, good image. It's multiple images. You can call it a mosaic, whatever. Multiple images that they put together from Apollo 16 from the far side of the moon. Now, Chris, when we get to your image, did we decide that was 16?
What's that?
The image that you had, which mission that was?
Oh, this is just from the LROC.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yep, this is from the LROC.
Okay, never mind on that. Well, Apollo 16 was 1972, Young, Mattingly, and Duke. And this is one of the things that they set out to do, was get a good shot of the far side of the moon. Now, I downloaded this thing, and I was thinking, well, you know what? A lot of times what they do in these images, now this was released, and it was in textbooks, it was in a newspaper and all that kind of stuff. But I figured, when they re-released it, they probably went in and cut it out like they do, and they made a black background. There's not going to be anything to see, and blah, blah. So the first thing I did, I just started looking around at these craters. And by the way, this is when I started realizing that a lot of craters are six-sided. You got a lot of hexagonal-shaped craters. And I'd noticed this little, this guy right here sitting down here in this one. And other stuff probably built down here, it looks like. And I said, you know what? But I just can't really get anything else out of it. And then I noticed over here on this side, up above you, I don't know if everybody can see this. I'm going to have to pull it in here in a minute. But there's an area here that looks like it was either a smudge or there's something there. So guess what we did? We brought up the exposure to this. Now, Chris, I'm going to kill your picture for 1 second here. Never mind, that wasn't Chris, that was me. What's the matter?
Oh, don't be killing yourself in your own life hangout now. Come on.
There you go. I'm going to kill you, but we can still hear you. And I'm just doing that because I know what this is going to do, and I'll bring it in. And what we got when we brought up the exposure was this guy right here. And, I'm on the fence about this. I don't know. It's crazy looking. Could it be an object out there? Sure. Could it be something else? I guess so. Maybe film damage, water damage or something. I don't know. But it's really not important because there was something else that came into view. And it was right down here. And it's this. And as soon as I saw this, I kept working the exposure till I got it all in. And I believe that this is every bit of this. Now, let's bring that in closer. This is a little graphic I made. This is the original. This is the way they've released it. You download it, this is what you'll get. And this is with the exposure and contrast increased. Not only do we have what looks like some type of space station here to me, there's just too much about this that looks artificial.
Well, it's like a perfect arch, too.
It does. It's a perfect arch.
It's one thing if it was a squiggle, okay, it's a piece of hair, and you enhanced it. But when you look at this thing, it's a perfect arch, perfect, just the way it's smooth and there's no bends to it. And I think what it is just the camera took the photo, maybe didn't even realize it was there. Or they did, and they just really adjusted the camera to try to get it out of the picture until you brought it up. And now, of course, you can see it.
Yeah, my guess is they didn't see it because it was pretty light. And they cropped, the space is brought in pretty tight on this. And this is just barely in the image. And, you mentioned, and I know everyone else probably sees this, there appears to be a craft right here. It's what I would think it would be. That's what that looks like to me. This also looks like something with, this looks like a craft that actually has fins on the back of it. That's what it looks like to me with what I'm used to seeing. Yeah, the one
at the very bottom, yeah.
Right, here on Earth, that's what this looks like to me. This, to me, the first thing I thought of was Space Odyssey, because the big, round, rotating.
Yes, the space station itself.
Yeah, the space station itself. Someone mentioned, I brought this up in one of the trial videos, and someone mentioned how big that this looked like it was, and the thing is, we really don't know. We don't know how close this is to us. We don't know if this object is a lot closer than this. We don't have a reference. We've got the moon here, but this thing may be way on back here, hundreds and hundreds of miles closer than to this part of the moon, or further away. We don't know.
Did you say that's towards the back? Is that towards the back side of the moon?
Yes.
Okay, so that would make it a little harder to see as far as anybody with a telescope and so forth, right?
That's right. That's where it comes from. It's going to be here on that far side of the moon. Yeah, it would be. And we just caught it. And again, this is, well, let's go back to, let's show how it looks one more time. That's the way it looked. I didn't add this. I just brought it in. See, who's going to notice that? Who is going to notice this in a textbook on printed paper, right, and with limited DPI, the resolution really limited on the paper. And this came out in 71. It was in encyclopedias. But who's going to notice that? Who's going to be able to do anything with it? Until they went and digitized this and put it out there, were we able to do it. If we could get a hold of the actual film, I think it would be 100 times better, but I don't think there's much of a chance of that. And this actually may be the only original film they have anymore, because, and Chris understands what I'm talking about. Now, I'm just going to show you. I'm not going to see these areas right here. This is actually the last image. I'm sorry. We bring in stuff like this on there, and I don't know what to say about this. It's pretty bizarre. It looks like it could be a craft. Actually, it looks like one of the Klingon ships to me, if you remember that. Was it the the Bird of Prey was the Romulans, but it looks a lot like that. Could it be something on the film that just looked like that? Maybe, but I want you to know that it is there, and that goes for this too. As weird as this looks, this is out there on that image, and you know, I don't know what to think about it. Is that in space? One of the more interesting things about it is these. When you look at these and you see these black dots on these orbs, what I think's going on is these are attached to a bigger, these are all part of probably the same craft. It looks to me like it's going in a circular manner here, and this is the only part that had enough light reflecting off of it that I could bring out. Because if you'll notice the ships that we brought into light from Mount Shasta, Nicholas Hyde took those pictures up there during the eclipse, and it's extremely clear, those craft. They have balls on the end of these, I'm not going to say wings, but these arms that come out that are lit up, and they have these dark looking areas around them, just like this. So, you know, I don't know.
It's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell, but we need to consider it all, because just from the first few of those images where we didn't have to do anything, where I really believe the scrubbers missed it. And you got to think, back in that day, they're going, hey, we miss a few things. Nobody's going to see it. They had no idea that in the future, you know, 40, 50 years, that people were going to be getting digital images of this to where they could bring out stuff that had just a little bit of a light on it. They had no idea whatsoever. Yeah, and a lot of those people are
they didn't even think of Photoshop. They said, who's going to see this crap?
Yeah, those people are dead and buried now, a whole lot of them, you know. And so these kids and so forth that went in and had this project to do this, they didn't know anything like that was going on.
No, not at all.
Chris, tell us what you found.
Well, I mean, like I said, I've looked at many photos and of the moon itself, and you know, I've got, just like I said, I decided to make a lunar anomalies and beyond channel because I wanted to do all moon. So anybody who's just wanted to see the moon stuff, they could do that. But this one here was just too hard. I just didn't want to have it just to one channel, so I decided to bring it on the bigger channel, because it's the one I started first, was the Mars anomalies. So, you know, when I looked at this, now keep in mind, this photo is from 1966 and was put online at 1970. So I can bring this up, and I think you're going to make this full screen, right?
I am.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, jump in there. I'm going to show you guys where you can get it, and I'm sure, you know, Jimmy will leave a link for it in the bottom, in the description somewhere, and you guys can find this. Let me go ahead and share that.
Remember that Z Olive is asking about those images.
Well, let me do this.
Chris is traveling around in space. Everyone does realize that Chris is actually the one in space, and he green screens to make it look like he's in his living room. I believe this. Z Olive wanted to know about those Mount Shasta images. If you will go to our website, marsfam.net, and go to It's Not a Moon and look for the video. We have that outlined in there, so go check that out. And Chris finally got his craft under control, I guess.
Yeah, it was swirling out of control, but we stabilized it. Okay.
Hey, look at that.
So now this is where you can find this, and you can see it's the NTRS, the NASA Technical Report Server. And you can see when it was uploaded, it says January 1st, 1970. But these were taken in 1966. Now, when you look at this photo, and I'm going to bring it up a lot better for you, you can't zoom into the page. And if you try to, the picture seems to go smaller and the words get bigger. So it doesn't do you any good, right? So let me just bring this up here. This photo here, this is when I first did the first video, and I've got it on Lunar Anomalies and Beyond, where it shows in the very foreground with the yellow arrows and everything. There's something that's stretched out on the ground there, and they appear to be structures, and the way the lunar surface is kind of carved out, stuff like that. And you can see the other arrows. And I believe there's a large structure in the background because it has what looks like this. I'm going to call it a roof, but it has height to it. Didn't think nothing of it. I said, no big deal. And of course, you get a lot of shadowing and stuff like that. And so it's hard to see some of this stuff, but let's jump into this. Is the actual photo. So now we can really zoom into this.
It's very
Now,
it's very typical with two-dimensional images, Chris, that
yeah.
things are hard to see, and they know that when they
Yeah.
put it out there. But once you finally start tuning in, it's like, whoa.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, they describe this as a crater. You can see it here, the left one, a crater in a crater. Now, if you could actually do the circumference of this thing and I kind of outline it somewhere, like if you can actually make this whole, they say this is 40 miles in width. Okay. Now, like I said, once you guys see this, it's amazing because you will not unsee it. So anyway, let's zoom into this. And you can see these crazy things on here. Now you can see how it looks a lot whiter compared to what I've done. Exactly. Because what they've done is they'll make everything super white here, and you won't be able to see that. You're just like, okay, what's going on here? That, why is everything so whited out? Well, there's a reason for it. And like I said, I'll show you that. Well, I already showed you in the beginning where it has all this area here. If this is 40 miles roughly, and of course, again, you'd have to try to envision, if you will, the actual whole crater. Okay.
Boy, Chris,
Now,
already, Chris, that right here, that even before you reduce that brightness in there, that white, that teardrop supposed impact crater, it's
it's crap.
I've seen those, and they say, well, it's where the crater hit, and it's spewed that direction. As you can see there, that's not an impact crater
Yeah, like
at
you're
all.
saying. And I've noticed this right here. Okay, in the lower left, you got that small crater, but look at it, looks like a piece of paper for crying out loud. It looks like some kind of almost like it's a structure, like like I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't look real as far. Well, it doesn't look like, I should say, like just typical lunar surface, right? And you can see just underneath this, looks like there's a faint shadow just underneath it. Well, wait a minute. You can have shadows, obviously, from a crater rim, right? But this appears to be off the ground here and not, part of the ground. And again, we've got this whole section right here that appears to be something sprawled out. And you can see what looks like these little parts all sitting there. But my biggest thing, and I can't believe it, it's funny, I'm looking at this picture and I just can't unsee these things. This is great. But again, even here, I can try to zoom into this. Right in this area right here, there's two structures right there. There's one, two, and then you get one on top of here. But that's not what I really wanted to convey. Again, I seen this piece back here. It looks like it's off the ground. You see this way, this white rectangular piece seems to be off the ground. It seems to be other whiter pieces below it. That's telling me this is something standing off the ground. And that's what I was concentrating in the video until I made this video again to show what's really here. Now, let's bring that back down. Okay, we've seen that. Now, check this out. I circled all three of these things and brought them out. And here you go. This thing totally blew my mind.
And that is great.
You can see there's two of them right on the side of each other. And look at the shape of this structure. It also has what looks like something coming up and back down right here at the very top of it in the middle. Has these two white pieces. And look at the side. I'm thinking this at the end of it.
Man, look at
And
that.
on the other side, right here. And of course, these other, look at this, it's got a white like detail on it on that corner and one on this corner. So there's one right behind this larger one. Now, as I said before, we know this crater, again, I wish this was a whole crater because this would be a lot better. This one right here, that's 40 miles in width. Okay, how big is the base of this thing? And people actually speculated, and it makes sense. Well, not really speculate, but this is supposed to be ground right here, this white area. So this thing is much taller if you would to come down this area. Okay, and how wide is this thing?
God, that thing is so detailed, man.
Right. Now, let's move on to this wannabe crater. And again, you can see that right here. You can see like a shadow underneath that. So what is this right here? Okay. Doesn't make any sense at all. Now, again,
Hey, Chris, can you go further to the left? Or do I need to
that's as far as I can go right there.
Yeah, hold it like that for a minute. You're sending it to me fine, and then because the way it's cropped on here, and I don't want to touch that. Man, what is that inside that? That's mm,
It makes you wonder, did they scribble over that? Maybe it's something else in there and not. This is what always puzzled me. If this is an impact crater and whatever this is inside the crater, if that's what impacted the ground, would the crater not be much larger? Because think about it, the smaller the item, the smaller the crater. Or, of course, that depends on impact speed too, right? But
right,
when you
right.
look at that, you just go, wait a minute, I can't understand how something that large can only make that big of a crater. And if you notice, a lot of
It,
these craters, they're not coming in like an angle. It looks like they come straight in out of space and slams directly into the lunar surface. You hardly ever see any craters that like dragged for like a mile or 2 miles, and it's like it's got this huge dugout area. You never see that.
well, you
It's
got
completely
objects in here
straight down.
reflecting sunlight in here too. Here,
Yeah.
here. These are these are leads me to believe it's some type of metallic or some substance other than rock because of the way that it's reflecting this sun right here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now you can see this whole sprawled out area. You can see
Yeah,
the way this is cut out here. You can see these other objects laying around, and this thing blew my mind too because this right on top, almost like this triangular top to this thing, it's got a wall right here, one in the center, one on the other side, and each of them almost look like symmetrical as something coming off the very edge of them.
yes, it
But you
does.
can see this thing. If you really look at the detail in this thing, these things, I can guarantee this thing is probably, this whole area is like a swath of land, like I'm going to guess 10, 15 miles at least. If we judge this by the size of this crater being 40 miles in width, good Lord. Now,
Well,
let's have a look at the
Chris,
background.
right here.
What are we looking at?
Well, there's these objects sitting down here on the surface next to that. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and it looks like there's things sitting around down here. I don't know whether these are vehicles. And over here, if you go back to the right before you go up top, I know you're headed up there. That first object that you showed behind it to the far right.
Yep.
Yes, this one over here. Keep going that way. Keep going a little further if you can. It. Where did it go? I'm really interested in what's going on back here behind all of this. There's
Well,
there's
here's
just
the thing I want to show you too, real quick. Couple of things. This lower right corner, and I can bring it right here, or right to the right. Look at this round piece right here, and this black piece coming straight out of it. But yet you got this top piece on top of it.
well, hold on.
I'm
We're not.
convinced.
Go ahead and go more to the left. We're not quite in the screen there. If you can go any
Okay.
further.
Okay, let's go
Other
back
left.
over here.
Other left.
On the left. Okay. I'll try to put it like this, see what happens, and see if we can get it back in there. But you can see these. It's gonna be hard to point it out and drag it at the same time.
Well, I got my mouse on here. There's
Okay.
something. Look, there's a. It looks like a craft sitting right here to me, with a protrusion out the front of it. I say craft because I don't really know what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
It's casting a shadow right here. I'm just really started tuning into this image. There's something elevated here with a circular area on the bottom and little things laid out here on the right side of the screen around it. I mean, it looks like there's something going on down here. There's a bunch of little complexes or big complexes.
I'm going to try to put this in the lower right corner here for a second. Let's see how this plays out. I want to see how it goes on here on the screen because we are a little delayed what everybody else is saying. It's a little bit delayed. But what I'm going to try to do is put that in the very lower corner. Well, it's a little too low. Let's bring it up here a little bit because I want everybody to see this. There's what looks like a tripod thing protruding straight out of the ground. Looks like a tower, and you're going to see this in a second. This is pretty cool. I'll go a little higher because it's just barely showing. You'll see what looks like this tower type thing or some kind of massive something like it's got like you see the 90-degree corner, but it looks like a tripod kind of thing right at the very bottom. You can see it's got like a round top and looks like some kind of weird tripod, but look just to maybe the 11 o'clock position from it. There's a round base to something with something black in the middle of it coming straight out. And it's very, very large, almost takes up this huge circle. But again, what is with the white on the top of it? Like I said, I'm convinced that they use the lunar surface very well to maybe hide from radiation. to camouflage for anything that's going above them, maybe other civilizations. I don't know, pure speculation. But it would make sense to try to, guard yourself from solar radiation, right? Maybe it gets too hot, too cold, whatever, obviously it gets cold once it gets in the dark area. But it's just bizarre the way those things are laid out. And it's just really crazy.
Hey, Chris, let
Um,
me try something. See if this makes this any better.
I'm gonna let this spring back here.
No, it didn't. Never mind. You're in control of it. I thought I could bring your screen in better. Unfortunately,
Well,
the view that we're giving them is only about 75% of
all right,
what
let's see
you.
what
As
that
long as you're
does
not
here.
around the edges, we're okay.
Let me back out of here a bit.
That's blowing me away right there. Chris, there's only either one or two possibilities here, I think. And if there's a third one, someone tell me. Either these objects are extremely large, extremely, or we're not being told the truth about the size of the moon and the distance from Earth. One of the two. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know which it is, but, I'm convinced that's an artificial object right there. I'm
Oh,
absolutely
there's no doubt
convinced.
in my
And
mind.
because of that, everything else I'm seeing is starting to come into view. Uh, yes, it's just incredible.
Well, the thing is too is if you look just to the right of these structures, you can see what looks like almost like bridges type thing in this whited area. You can see pieces that are very straight, and just look underneath. You can look. It looks like shadows underneath it.
Yes.
These things are off the ground. It's almost like if you were to have like a busy like highway type thing going on, right? Things over each other, these
Oh,
roadways and everything
well, I
else.
see that. And actually, Chris, that's what I was talking about a while ago when I said there was something behind this that I was really interested in. And now you're talking about that exactly. And that is this. This is what you're talking about right through here, isn't it? If you can see my mouse, all these areas here, and you can see the shadows from them. You can see the space in between them.
Yeah.
And I thought at first maybe that was some type of craft sitting there, but now I don't know because when you look down here, this again looks like either a flooring or a roofing to something underneath. It's a flat area. We're not supposed to have that up there.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, and here's the other thing too. Just if you just kind of look around, let your eyes settle a little bit, look way here in the back. It looks, just 3 o'clock of this large structure in a circle. You can see what looks like almost like an arched roof type thing
I see that.
right here in the back. Again, and there's something another smaller one right there. Again, you got to let your eyes settle in. A lot of people, they're hoping this is what they're hoping. NASA's hoping that everybody just peruses over these things really quickly. Oh wow, look at the moon. Boom, next, and not pay any attention. And that's the problem. People need to stop and really, really scrutinize these photos because what you find in there is absolutely astounding.
Jerry Lahane, or Lahan, I think it's Lahane, says generators. Well, I know what he's talking about. I thought the
Yeah.
same thing possibly. We don't really know, but that's what I'm thinking. That doesn't look like apartment buildings. It looks like something that's serving a function, a purpose. And man, this right here, what do you think about this? That's obviously artificial to me. Where my mouse is running back here. I think you kind of pointed that out. And I really wish it wasn't so dark in here because this really looks interesting, but we just don't have any light.
Right. And believe it or not, like I said, I can bring this back out. I'm going to bring it back out here for a second. Let me just see right here. Again, if you were to see this, now you just can't unsee it. It's just right there.
Right.
I did not see these. And what got me going was the fact that I seen these shadows right here. I'll bring it in. Right here on the ground. You
Oh
can
yeah.
see them. There's and I don't know if that's even a shadow. It might be something. It might be part of this thing, but you cannot unsee that now. It's there, right there. But look how well crafted and well hidden in plain sight this thing is. Okay. Now I'm going to show you that back structure. This thing's neat as well. I don't know if we'll be able to get all of this in there, so I'm going to kind of keep it like this and see how this looks. Is it still on screen on yours?
Yes.
All right. I'm
Where's your
going to leave it
mouse?
right
Where's your
there.
mouse? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, it's pretty centered. Yeah. You're on screen.
all right, it's just barely on screen right there, but you can see
Right.
that. Check this thing out. It
Ma-
has multiple levels.
It sure does. You can see
Look
the
at that thing.
frame. It actually looks like an earth building. It looks like a two-story uh, home you'd see down here in the South down in Louisiana.
Yeah. I'm going to hold the screen like that. But look at the little bits and pieces in front of this thing all the way around it. This does not look natural.
Oh,
Even the
no.
very right corner, look at the very right corner. It's a smooth type tube framing to it. You can see it white, smooth. There's no way this thing is actually it's natural. There's no way this could be. And like I said, now when you take a look at this, let me just back out now. Now, when you look at this whole area, the stretched out area, this is what I started off with right down here on the bottom, right next to this crater and a crater. Start off with this. Now look at all of these. They all come together. This is one giant area full of structures. And guys, I'm going to tell you what you're seeing is really just half of it, maybe quarter of it. Again, we don't know what's hidden in all this white. Do you think it's actually like that on the moon? No. And here's the funny thing: people go, well, how come people with telescopes can't see this? Well, first of all, they can't. You're not the LROC. The LROC is only 75 miles orbiting off the lunar surface, so there's no way you'll see these. And secondly, they're on the backside of the moon, so
Jack
you
Jack,
really
Jack
don't have
DeVille's
to
right.
look at-
Jack DeVille, that is he's right. That's the first thing I thought of was when I said Louisiana. I said to him the
Yeah,
plantation
exactly, yeah.
houses down there.
Yep.
It had that, and I don't think that's really what that would look like up close, because this is obviously something else going on the moon. But that gives anybody, I don't know. It looks like a 2-story, multi-roomed home, looking at it from a distance. But someone up in here, and I lost who it was that had said it, that this is proof or evidence that we're there. We need to think about that. Do we
Yeah.
know that this is our stuff? I mean, really?
Yeah. Let me see.
I don't know that this is ours.
Yeah, I mean, and I've said this before because we don't know. Supposedly, from if you go by the ancients, we are in the 5th cycle. In other words, we've been around for much longer than we can imagine. We've, even science is saying, well, wait a minute. First of all, we were 6,000 years old. Now we're 7,000 years old. Then we got ancient civilizations that are 17,000 years old, way predate anything they've ever said. And now you look at off the coast of Unagani, Japan, you got these, pyramids and structures that are underwater, about 70 feet under the water, that are literally there. And we didn't know they even existed. We are just learning to walk, and we're just seeing our surroundings now, and we're at awe at it. And when you see this stuff, you just go, what in the hell? How is this possible that these things are there and we don't see them? Well, you're not going to. And they would rather keep this under wraps if they can do that. It's as simple as that. And when I see these things, I see structures everywhere. I see this as a whole area, even in all that white in the middle of the screen, is completely been, manipulated and obfuscated to keep this crap from people seeing it. And there's no way the moon looks like this. However, the features you do see are actually there. When we showed, like, just to the right of that, the large structure with the 2 arrows going down to it.
Yeah, you
All
just
that
got to
inside
start.
there-
People should just start there and work from there, because they'll realize how much more in here is really not hard to see once
Right.
you realize there's stuff going on. And you don't have to. It's not a stretch of the imagination to see that we got something artificial. And yes, thank you, Mars X3D, David Gannett. That's a fine gentleman there. He mentioned to us that my mouse cursor is not working. I probably said for that to be not visible, so I apologize for that. Go ahead.
Well, it's like mine here. I'm looking at the screen here, and mine's just a little itty bitty thing, and I'll put it right here. I'll put it right over, right next to the little arrow, the second arrow coming down next to that circle, just over it. And it's tiny, but if you've seen it on my screen, it's absolutely, I mean, you'd say you must be blind to have it that large, and you're only seeing this little bitty little thing. And I'm going to put it just over that large structure in the back, and you'll see how tiny this thing is. It's very small. So we're trying. This is the reason why I keep pointing out, and I'm saying basically, where to see this. In other words, if we're talking about the very large one in the back corner, you can see what looks like framework. And so this way here, we really don't need the arrow so much to actually see that. And I can see structures. I can see parts of structures. Is it possible? Because, I mean, even back again with the ancients, they were saying that there was wars on the moon. There was all kinds of even wars on Mars. So is it possible whoever was in this solar system prior to us, and again, they were talking about we're in the 5th cycle. Okay, what about the 1st cycle? So the 1st cycle was we obviously were here. We had our own technology. Great catastrophe came, put us back into the dark ages. Now this takes thousands of years. Not like, oh, okay, a month later, we're going to get everything back running. No, it doesn't work that way. Everything gets completely demolished and everything else. It rots into the ground. Oh, wait a minute. Now we're going to start up again. And now we try to do this again. Because just picture wiping out just about everything on the planet, except for a few survivors. Well, of course, they start to propagate the planet again, but yet now you got to start over. And again, every time we start over, we get more technologically advanced. Well, what if we go back most like 100,000? They're saying what 200, like a quarter of a million years old now that maybe intelligent man is, as opposed to 7,000 years. Now we're much older. And I guess what, guys? I promise you, we probably go back further than that. We don't know. We are just simply using, we say, well, this is a theory, stuff. Don't get me wrong. They have peer review papers that can back a lot of this, but I think there's much more to us. And I always say this in my videos. We are part of something much larger. And here it is, guys. If this is not ours, and I don't believe that it is, unless, of course, we were here way back thousands of years ago, and this is ours, and this is what we're seeing, the remnants of it, or something else is on our moon, and it may be more than one species or whatever has come to this moon, and this is what we're seeing. This, to me, this is what started. So if you've seen this on the moon, and you said, okay, we're going to cover this up from the public, why would they stop at the moon? Why would they stop?
By the
They're going
way,
to continue to do it on Mars and any other planet and body in our solar system, right?
that's right. Master King K says that he says it's not a moon, it's a building, and that that's what I said early on. It may be. I don't know the status of the moon. I don't know when it was built. I don't know when it was formed, whichever it was. We do know it's there. We can see it. It's an observable phenomenon, but we don't really know how it got there. We don't really know what it is. We don't know if there is more inside it than there is on the outside. But I tell you what, I am pretty convinced that something either is or has been on the surface of the moon. And I can't sit here and tell you that it's not us. Because if they're hiding this, I don't know what all they're hiding. And every time you come back to this right here, I see that teardrop on the left, more of the stuff above it starts becoming clear to me. It's really amazing. Gladius Maximus wants to know if this is a place to leave off stool samples for examination. Ew. No, Vladimus, urine and blood only is the only thing that we're taking at this time. Thank you. You're going to have to take that elsewhere. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, man.
We got some nuts out there. What can you say? You got to love them.
Well, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, there will be a lot of people that doubt it, but it's right here in front of your eyes. This wasn't added. This was just simply, the exposure brought up, and there you go. Now, I did darken the brighter areas, and like I said, between them two, what look like large structures, I've tried to bring it down as much as I can to bring out lines. Lines tell all. Sometimes you can bring out the lines, man, it doesn't really amount to anything. Sometimes you can bring it out and wait a minute, it forms something much different. And it's the same thing they're doing on Mars, guys. It's the same darn thing they're doing on those. They're literally hiding stuff. And if we can make it all white in a certain area or yellow, depending on the photo, we can really take out those lines. But if you bring back the lines with the burn tool, you can actually just bring it out a little bit. All of a sudden, these lines will start to come back. So you're bringing back what they tried to hide. And once you bring this back out, all of a sudden, the photo tells a whole different story. And if they're hiding this stuff on the moon, again, why would they stop anywhere else? They're gonna just say, listen, continue to tell the lie, because if this ever gets out, and let's say when I say it ever gets out, I mean like some major scientist really questions this, and they say, listen, what's going on? Let's say they go to Congress and say, these guys are full of it, man. We're paying them X amount of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, and they're not telling us the real results. What's going on here? And that's the whole key.
Barry Walling mentions that wish we could measure this stuff. You can Google Earth, but well, you know what though? You may be able to, but can you trust it?
Yeah.
All we've got to measure by now, when it comes to Mars, I trust the measurements I take because I trust the guys I've talked to with that site, and I've taken measurements of the rover tracks and just lots of things like that, and they all measure up there. Google Earth, we've got something to measure Google Earth against. I can measure parts of my backyard and the drops and this and that, and I trust Google Earth, for pretty good, better than approximate value is going to be correct, because we can get out there and say, you know what, they're wrong. But the moon, what are we going to do? If we've got Google Lunar or Google Moon, I guess there is such a thing. I don't trust any of that. You
No.
might be able to measure some stuff, but it's still based on what they're telling us, that the moon is what 38 whatever thousand miles from the Earth, and that these objects are going to be that big. And
Mhm.
I just do not know. It seems a little strange that they're going to be that large. If I had to guess, I would say the moon's not as far away as they're saying, but I haven't been there to measure things myself, so I really don't know. Supposedly only a few people have, and they were dumbfounded when they came back. So, hey,
Mhm.
Chris
Well, I
may
said this
Chris may have
before.
been. I don't know.
Well, yeah, well, don't tell anybody, right? But see, here's the funny part. I've told people this 100 times, and you mentioned this, you hinted on this earlier about the Apollo 11 mission when they came back. These astronauts did not want to be in that press conference at all. Again, I want you to, anybody that's on this right now, I want you to envision you being an astronaut. You go to the moon. First of all, they're going to brief you, right? They're going to say, this is what you're going to find. They're going to say, um, you're going to see these structures. This is what the LRO has picked up. Okay, we're going to send you guys there to, grab parts from this thing, do whatever. Okay, so you go there. Now you're aware of the things that are there. There's no doubt. But here's the problem with it: when you get there and you see these things in person, can you imagine being next to that structure in the middle of the screen? Almost, it's on the bottom screen there. I see that. But can you imagine seeing that thing? You would look like an ant compared to this thing. It's just insane how large this thing is. So next to browning yourself, you can't help but to say, okay, now you come back. I said, and then they tell you, by the way, you're not allowed to say anything because there's a good possibility your family may disappear. So you want to have a gag order. You're not to say anything. Blah 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 blah. So these guys are literally sitting there going, you remember that? I remember the question. One of them, they go, hey, so what do you guys think about the stars that were there?
And
Stars?
here's
They're
the
literally
answer.
looking at each
It's
other.
just
They're
what I
looking at
was
each other like,
thinking.
what?
It's uh, I I don't remember. I don't remember seeing any stars. Y'all remember seeing any stars? Wasn't that about the way it went?
Yeah. Yeah.
We didn't
Exactly.
we didn't see any stars. We didn't see any
Yeah.
stingers. Man, it just seems to me that that's something you're gonna do. You're
Yep.
gonna get out there and you're gonna look up. And people make excuses
Exactly
for
right.
that. Well, you get up there, you're not, really, this. You know how you're going to react when you get up there. Something was very wrong. And you get some psychologists. I've heard some of them talk, watching these guys and their eyes and the actions they were making with their hands, and they just rip it up, saying they're extremely nervous. And then you've got
Oh God.
the cynics that come in, not the skeptics, but the cynics that say, well, if you just been on a blah 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 1,000-mile journey and up there and come back and blast it in and this and that, you're gonna be nervous. No, these guys were nervous before. If they were nervous before they left, and they were nervous on re-entry. That those important parts where things tend to blow up. On the pad for one thing.
Well,
We've
I
had.
mean, I tell people, listen, here's the thing. When you see videos of them on the moon, they're playing golf. They're running around with the lunar buggy.
Yeah,
Oh, hurrah! You ever hear the audio? Oh, yeah, man, having a great time. Boom! And they're having a great time, everything's good. They get back all somber, like they totally lost their parents in a car wreck. And you can just see, listen, they just made like one of the biggest steps for mankind. And yet they come back and they don't even want to answer a question. They don't want to be in there.
and Neil
They're just like,
Armstrong would not.
their heads going back. They're thrashing like they're just going, I don't want to be here. Again, just envision seeing these structures and maybe these crafts that are laying on the moon, the lunar, surface. And then, first of all, your brain has this problem of wrapping itself around what you just seen. You come back and they say, "Oh, by the way, we want you to do a little, press conference." That's the last thing they want to be on. They're like, "Please, I'd rather be shot in the face than go to this darn press conference." So they get there and they're just looking at each other like, "Oh my God!" You can just see them. Just watch them. Just watch the video. If anybody hasn't watched the video in this, it's absolutely insane. These guys should be excited like they were when they showed in the videos. They should have been excited coming back. Yes, we made it was a great, trip, talk about it and everything. No, nothing whatsoever. They couldn't, these guys couldn't wait the hell to get out of that room.
And later on, now,
I
now
mean,
Rob Lightcap claim he says Buzz Aldrin became an alcoholic. Well, I don't know about that, but I mean, I don't know, but I do know that Neil Armstrong completely retracted from all of it.
Yep. Became
He
a
did
recluse,
not
yeah.
want to be known. What he said, he says, when are people talking to me as the Moon Man? Until
Yeah.
one of his, he finally gave a speech in one of the, it may have been the last year that he was around. It was very late in life. He gave a
Mhm.
speech. I think was at a university, a short speech, and it was one. It had been a long time since he got out and spoke about any of this, and he made
Yep.
some kind of unusual coded comments about. It seemed to me about. There's a lot of good people involved in this, and there's. Did he say? He either said something about the lies or the truths. I can't remember now. It's like this poor guy. We do not know
I
what
can't even
really happened.
listen, I couldn't even fathom what these guys even seen on this planet. Like I said, to me, the rocks and stuff like that was just a PR move. Because think about this a minute. Okay, they had the little case. Remember the briefcase they brought with them?
Right.
Supposed to bring back some soil samples and dust and all that other stuff. Okay, I get that. How do we know they didn't take something else in the craft, like another, case or something like that? And they just left it in the module and just came back out and said, okay, yeah, here it is. Here's the case. And we don't know if they took bits and pieces off these crafts to see what this metal's made out of. We don't know. We don't have a clue. And judging by, like I said, from seeing them on these live feeds, they're having a great time. They're testing, they're drilling, they're doing this, that, and the other. Then they come back. What changed their demeanor and totally when they were there to when they came back in that press conference? What changed? Nothing should have changed. It should have been overjoyed to talk about everything they witnessed up there and how they were drilling for samples and digging up stuff. No, totally opposite.
Nicholas Vaughn says that was the 25th anniversary. I assume he's speaking of when Neil Armstrong made that speech. It might have been the 25th
Yeah,
anniversary. Okay, that
yeah.
that may be when that was. But thank you for that. But yeah, I'm with you. I don't have the link for that, but anyone that hasn't, I think you can just probably Google it, or as
Yeah,
George
Apollo
W
11
said,
press
George
conference
W said,
or the other one you're talking about.
use the
Yeah,
Google, as George
yeah,
W said, and
mhm,
watch that press conference, and it just amazes me of the cynics or the detractors. I don't know which it is that could sit there and say, these guys have been through a lot. You should expect this. That's ridiculous. These guys were tough, man. These guys were very
and
tough, or they wouldn't have been selected for this. And they went
right.
through an intense training, in swimming pools and everything flipped upside down, made them nearly drown to death and stuff.
Yeah, some of
Uh,
these guys were pilots, man. They flew
yes.
fast. They were ballsy. I mean, then they come back to like I said, even a couple of these astronauts did actually go into hiding, kind of thing. They didn't want nothing to do with the public. Why? Ask yourself that question. There's no reason. If I was an astronaut and I was taking the largest, known step for man, the biggest step for man, and I'm going out there and again, you go by the videos and the live feed that they show. Okay, let's go down here and they're digging and oh yeah, man, it's a big rock, and they're talking about that and all this other stuff and having a conversation. You know what would have changed from that point to that press conference where they didn't want to be there? Something happened up there that totally traumatized these guys in a way that I don't think we would ever understand. But they know it and they've been there and they probably were just going, "Oh my god, you just can't wrap your mind around something that's not yours and it's on our satellite, the Earth's satellite. It makes no sense. It really doesn't, guys."
Now, hey, did your audio disappear?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, okay, never mind. Maybe it was just my hearing. Teal H. How do you say your name here? Teal H. It says their families were in danger to be killed. That changed. That's what you were talking about. You can only imagine the things that might be, thrown at you as far as keeping your mouth shut. And I'm going to tell you, I know I'm not going to say his name, but I had befriended a guy through my YouTube channel several years ago, and he was associated with. He told me he was associated with Andrew
Basiago?
Basio. Thank you. That whole crew,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
it was involved in that whole thing back in the day. And he was
Mhm.
intrigued with the river in that one of those first images that I showed. And I got to talking to this guy quite a bit. He was in California, and he told me that he was involved in all of it because his family was involved, and it was a family thing. They were
Mhm.
involved with those that debriefed these astronauts and told them what they could and couldn't say. And he never would tell me the things that were said. He was tight-lipped on it. This man told me that and he did have a radio show, and he was really big into the weather and weather manipulation, and he was a
Mm-hmm.
big advocate of stopping this and exposing it. And I think
Like
that's what,
harp and stuff like that.
yes,
Yeah.
I think that's what got him in trouble. He's dead now, and
Mm-hmm.
he told me when I asked him, do you know what's behind all this? You can't tell me what's said and this and that. He goes, yes, I do. And I said, well, can you tell me? And his response was, it's more dark and sinister than anything you ever even want to think about. So, and no,
Yep.
I cannot. Well, this guy suddenly killed himself out of
Hmm.
nowhere. Now, is it associated with the things that he was exposing? I don't know, but he told me just probably less than 2 months before that he received warnings on his kids. His grown kids. He got pictures in the mail
Mm-hmm.
of his kids taken at the same time. They lived in different cities, and that's all it was. And he
Mm-hmm.
knew what that meant. And
Yep.
his kids told him, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." And then next thing you know, he's killed himself. And it was like, this guy was, where'd that come from?
Yep.
And talking to a few people, said, no, there's something wrong on here. And there's a number of people on here, and you've seen it yourself, Chris, people saying, hey, y'all, watch out what you say. First of all, we're just showing what they've already put out there. We don't
Yeah.
have, we don't have secret information. If we did and they knew we had it, we wouldn't be telling you. We like to stay alive, and we love our families, and all we're showing you is what they've put out there,
Yep.
and they know that's not going to go very far. And when I say they, who's they? I don't know. If I did know, I probably wouldn't. No, I know I wouldn't say. But look, I keep getting these things on Tyler. They say, look out, Tyler's got shut down. The government got Tyler. The government got Tyler. I don't know that Tyler didn't get himself.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
Yeah.
if you saw the things that he put out after the claims that he made, it
Yeah.
looks to me like Tyler created an issue for himself, and I tried to email the guy. The guy had helped me some. He'd
Oh, yeah.
said some good stuff on my channel, probably Chris's too. And we had those conversations, but I tried to ask him what was going on. I couldn't get any response from him. And
Yeah.
we knew, the stories he was telling was kind of bizarre. But
Mhm.
then he got more bizarre when he kept coming back on, basically saying that, guys, I'd made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I actually
Yeah.
thought he was going to try to recover from that. And then all of a sudden,
That's what I thought.
it's all gone and it's all shut down. And, I don't know. But he was just showing things that people were sending him. He had a great thing going on. People were sending him
Yeah.
he was big
mean,
on the
even if
he
you
was
just
big on
look
the
at it.
booms. He was real big
Yeah.
on the booms
Yeah.
going on around Earth, But
Well, true. But you got to look at it this way too. Even if you just considered him as just good entertainment. And a lot of people said, "Hey, he put out a lot of good stuff." Now, whether it was, I mean, he did lie and he admitted it. I even emailed him and said, "Is there any way I can help you out? Let me know." I said, "Just if I was you, because he got in trouble for that logo that I was using. It was, and I said, well, change your logo, and then if you have to appease like YouTube or anything like that, put it in the beginning of like a little disclaimer saying these videos are for entertainment purposes only, and then get on with it." Nobody would have gave a crap. Yeah, they were PO'd at him and stuff like that because of what happened. I get that. But to me, it's just like he could have easily jumped in there and he could have been, just fine. But this is the way I look at it. And I've said this many times on my channel. I don't think the government it would be out to get us, and I'll tell you why. Because I believe they're using it as pawns. I think they're looking at us like, listen, we can't come out and tell the truth. But why is it that we can find, and I'm going to call it breadcrumbs, like in these Martian photos, we can find them in the moon, so on and so forth. Why is it we're finding these? Because some people would ask me, hey, Chris, if they're going to cover up parts of the photo, why not just cover it all up? It makes no damn sense. Well, it does. Because they're saying the people who are inquiring enough, they're going to comb over these things with really good precision and they will find the stuff. Now, when you find it and you bring it out, guess what? They don't have to do the work. You're bringing it out. Now, you get enough people on board. And now all of a sudden they say, oh, by the way, let's say they do get bagged somehow and they have to tell the truth. Okay, no big deal. You're already desensitized to the fact that there's stuff on the moon, there's stuff on Mars. Yeah, they lied and it'll be like, okay, that's the end of that. And let's move on. But that's just the way it is. They're using us as pawns as far as I'm concerned. But, some people think differently and that's fine too. But I think if we were going to be pegged off, Now, did I have some crazy thing goes on with my computer sometimes? And I mean, like, there was one time I lived at my other house, and I'm actually working on it. All of a sudden, my mouse started to move. Everything went crazy on my screen. They were trying to take. I said, "Oh, I don't think that's going to happen." Boom, and I shut the computer completely down. I said, "I don't care if I get a green, the blue screen of death. For all I care, because everything's on my hard drive. I didn't care." So, even if the computer blew up tomorrow, it's all on an external hard drive. Have at it. So I didn't care, but that's my perspective. I think that we're just pawns in this, and that's what they're doing. And this is the reason why you're getting that slow drip, drip, drip. If they were to come out and say, "Yeah, we made a big screw up. Sorry, guys, we didn't mean to do that," but no, now they're going to open up Pandora's box, and that's what they don't want to do. And they got to answer to a whole lot of people. But understand something too. There are owners of this planet. Think about this. There has to be a higher up, and I mean right to the point. And I'm going to tell you who they are. They're the DOD. They're the military, Department of Defense, so on and so forth. Those are the real owners. And then when you go down to the financial real owners, those are the banks. But you have to have a higher up that literally pull the strings for this whole planet. Think about that. There has to be some kind of almost pyramidal kind of thing going on where there's got to be somebody that's this chief person of all to be on this. Now, can we prove that without a doubt? Probably not. But, think about it. It's something to really think about. Vladius rather, Maximus said, toughest, baddest mofo will fold when encountering, a superior alien civilization extremely close to home. And, I said this about the ancient civilizations. Just picture this a minute. The Egyptians said, we built the pyramids ourselves with the help from our overseers. That's what they said. And they're talking about people from the sky. Now, just about every religion out there talks about their gods came down from the heavens. Okay. So these guys, picture being Egyptian, even prior to that, whatever. You're in another part of the world. Something comes out of the sky or is flying in the sky. That's not a bird. It lands on the ground in front of you, and people similar to ourselves come out. Would you not bow thinking that these are gods? I would. What are you kidding me? I'd be like, oh my God, these guys have gift of flight.
The Thunderbird.
The Thunderbird.
The Thunderbird. You got to wonder about what that was, because either it was using some form of propulsion similar to ours now, or maybe it was breaking the sound barrier. I don't know, but they said there was a bird that flew around that was like thunder, and that might have been breaking the sound barrier. Maybe that's what they were hearing.
Exactly, because you can hear like a sonic boom or whatever. But the thing is, it's like I said, back in the day, if you had seen this kind of thing coming out of the sky, there's no other thing you can say it is. It's not like, it's an airplane or it's a helicopter. You never had any of that. Suddenly it comes out of the sky with great speed. I mean, even, you look at the ancient writings of India, the Mahabharata, when they talk about this, great cities in the sky fighting and having wars, and their weapons are brighter than the sun, so on and so forth. Were these people just sci-fi writers back in the day, or did they actually, write what they, is paramount to them to have to write this in someone in Sanskrit? So they literally wrote it in stone, petroglyphs, hieroglyphs. I mean, you name it. What were these people trying to, basically put out? They seen it. They found it imperative to actually write or draw about it or whatever, right? Yeah.
The secret, send that to jimmy@marsfam.net and give me some information on it. And Barry Whaling says we give too much credit, not necessarily us, but just people in general, to the they, especially if the they is not from Earth. That's why I say, who is they? Who is them? Who is them? They, thou, they, whatever. We don't know, but that's what Chris went into a while ago. It's pretty obvious that somebody, some force, some entity, some group seems to be controlling a lot of things, and they apparently are controlling our space agencies. It's NASA, the ESA, although I think NASA is kind of the disseminator of official information on this planet. I really, and some people don't want to hear this, but I think the ESA and Japanese space agency and Russian, I think they're, I feel like they're down on the totem pole on that. I think there is a hierarchy, and I do not think that hierarchy is applied by anyone that we know of. Does that make sense? When you look at it, someone else mentioned, and I know we're getting up close to an hour and a half here. We're going to shut down here in a few minutes. Someone mentioned that a lot of things have crashed and they thought got blown up trying to land. I don't know if they were talking about the moon or
Hmm.
not, but I do know that Mars, thus far, it seems that, well, it doesn't seem, what we're told is NASA. Is that what they
That
say?
too.
Is that what they say up in Pennsylvania? Like Datter? They say Nasser. Do they say Nasser?
Data, 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 whatever the heck it is.
NASA are they the only ones that have successfully landed a rover on Mars that survived and sent back any usable data. What
Hmm.
you had the Beagle 2, those things either crashed. That was the was that the ESA? It was some of that UK stuff. Uh, they either burn up. One of them crashed or landed. One of was it one of the Russian probes? I think sent back 14 seconds of data, then disappeared. And you got Phobos
Hmm.
2. You got
Yep.
Phobos 2 that they originally said was blown out of the sky. They got the pictures of it. It was
Hmm.
actually alongside the moon, Phobos,
Yep.
and that's a story for another time. But yeah, the Russians, that was 89,
Even
90.
yeah, even the Russians showed it. There was a
They
woman there
they
showed like the
said
last photo taken. Yeah, and it
originally
showed what looked like
said
a
that's
star-shaped UFO shadow casting a shadow, and this thing was huge on the Phobos moon. Now, keep in mind what Jimmy's talking about. Uh, the Soviet Union put out Phobos 1 and 2, their spacecraft. They were supposed to go to that moon. One of them flew off and they lost communication, so it became a dead stick. The other one started to go into orbit, and of course, they never heard another thing from it either. It just totally went out. The last photo it took was what looked like a cigar-shaped UFO on the actual Phobos moon. So,
and
of
and
course,
it
they
may
love
have
them
been the
things.
Soviet Union that sent two even. I know by the time that they were talking about this happening, the wall had fallen over in Berlin and all, and I know the uh, communism had fallen. I believe they'd gone to straight up Russia by then. By the time they were talking about it, anyway. And you're right.
Mhm.
They first came out and were saying, they thought something destroyed it, and then that female cosmonaut said, or well, she may not have been a cosmonaut, but she worked. She was she was her spokesman, I think.
Yeah.
She said, "Okay,
They're definitely in the space program one way or the
It's
other.
very nervous." They said, "We're not saying it was a UFO. We're
Yeah.
saying something happened." They
Well, we're not
started,
saying it isn't either.
yeah, they started retracting their statement and like we said, left the guy over in the UK hanging. That they were going to do the story on it. You remember? I think we've talked about that
Yeah.
they were going to blow this out of the water, and he said they just didn't show up all of a sudden. We had
Yeah.
the pictures and everything. They left me out to dry. So
Yep.
somebody stepped up and said, "No, you're not going to do it." And so who is that? I don't know. I don't know
Well,
who
like
it
I said,
is.
there's so many things you can think about. Even our own moon, when you think about, okay, the Soviet Union was going to go to the moon and they decided not to. They sent it up the Lunokhod. They had several of these Lunokhod rovers, and they look eerily, kind of like what we have today. Only they were eight-wheel electric, rovers kind of thing. And they went up there and they were kind of smart. They didn't have to worry about losing any astronauts or anything like that. They took photos and they sent them back. Well, we went up there, and again, how many missions was this? Yeah, let's do the math here, guys. So, okay, we go up there to see rocks and dust. We bring it back. Oh, wait a minute. Let's go on the next mission, do the same thing. Oh, the next mission, let's do the same thing. And I've said this, I don't think we've ever stopped. You can use the SR-71 Blackbird, which was, invisible to radar.
Right.
And and this thing came out, understand the plans came out in the 40s for this thing, late 40s. It came out for the military in 1950s. It wasn't told to the public or unclassified until the mid 90s. What do they have now if they had that back then? Why don't we? And I said this before, and I only speculated, but what if they retrofitted one of those with an engine, meaning to go out into space, or the old space shuttles back in the 80s when they had a space program called Star Wars? Now they want to say, oh, we'll have a space force. Yeah, whatever. Um, if you think about it, you could have still taken, some of them space shuttles, which some of them are rotting away in Kakistan right now. They could have just used a bay, made extra fuel, went there, flew there, landed on the moon. What's the gravity on the moon? Okay, and they can easily take off the moon. There's not a whole lot of gravity to keep them down, not a whole lot of fuel to be expended. So these guys could come and go. Now, if you use like the SR-71 Blackbird, it's invisible to radar. They wouldn't even know you took off. You could literally go wherever the hell you want to come back to the moon, go to the moon. Nobody be none the wiser. Do it at night. Can't see it with radar. They can keep going all day long, and they can have a base up there by now, and they're going through all of this stuff and mining. We don't know.
That's right. Hey, Chris, Renee Van Oosterhout says, thanks, Chris, Jimmy, for doing this. Guys are doing this together. Really enjoyed peace. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. We've been planning on getting together on some of this stuff. And Chris, we're not going to talk about this now. But it's kind of ironic and eerie a little bit that we had planned to do this today, and you know what I'm talking about. And we'll talk
Yeah.
about this on another episode. Some things that have transpired. It's just really, really eerie to me, and we'll leave that at that. But Renee Van Extra, aren't you? Isn't she in the Netherlands, I believe? Are they about 6-7 hours ahead of us? I believe that's
Mm,
where she is.
yeah.
That's on our shows, and I'm planning on if Chris is nice enough to have me on his live hangout, as he calls it, I'm going to be happy to do that. Um,
Oh, we're definitely gonna have you on.
yeah, we'll try to do one of these one way or the other at least once a month, I would think. And
Yeah.
we're going to plan up some really good stuff. And there's a possibility that we'll have more than one person on here at a time. We got some
Mm,
people in mind that we can really get some differing opinions on some images, especially from Mars and the moon and possibly beyond. And y'all remember that Chris's channel is Mars Anomalies and Beyond. If you're not subscribed to that, I would go over there and do it because uh, Chris kind of attacks everything like this. He doesn't throw a bunch of uh, he may throw some paranoia out there, but not any pareidolia. He's pretty dang careful. He's a smart guy, and anybody that ever dealt with ham radios, man, not only are they absolutely 100% assured to be a nerd, they're going to be extremely smart. I've found this out my whole life, and those ham radio guys used to love to get out there and see how far they could reach
right.
with their radios with the least amount of power, I believe. And it
Hmm.
takes a smart guy to do that. Now we're sitting here and you go all over the world.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
Exactly.
But no, that's something I really appreciate. And I know they're going to know a lot about communications. They're going to know a lot about, that means antennas, transmission, receiving, a lot of things uh, kind of move into what we're talking about because transmission, receiving, all of that, NASA, it all kind of comes together. So a lot of the people that are interested in stuff like this and are really good at it are going to have some type of a background in something like this. And mine's all electronics, computers, yeah, but electronics. That's where I come from. So
Hmm.
uh,
And I think that's what it is, man. I think it's the technical part one of to tear these things apart. And I want to add something what you just said. When you said ham operators, this is what's funny. Just to give you a little bite of what's really going on. When China sent up the Chang'e 3 or the Chang 3, depending on how you want to pronounce it, those photos were just like NASA. They literally are manipulating and screwing with these photos. And guess what? They send up the Chang 4 recently. And of course, the first photo that came out was so manipulated and obfuscated, it was literally you laughed at it when you saw it. Now, when Chang 3, they said, well, they had a problem with it. And what it was, the solar panels were supposed to close because it got really cold at night and they want to keep, thermally warm and stuff like that. Well, they said it would not close, so therefore it froze. So I don't know if one of them didn't close and one did, but here's the problem. They're using, and I believe it was 2 meters, just like they did in the Apollo mission. They were using 2 meter radio. This is the reason why a lot of ham operators could follow along. Now, here's where the funny part is. When they had the Chang 3, they said, we don't know what happened. It froze, whatever. But these things ping. It's just like the rovers on Mars, they ping. What that means is, hello, I'm doing good here. I just want to let you know we're online. And guess what? The operators heard it. And they knew this thing was still functioning. They were full of it. And yet, you never heard another word from it. They said, oh, we finally got it to run. This is what they said. But we're not going to be showing the public anymore. We're going to allow the rover to continue to do its science, and that's pretty much it. You
right.
never heard another thing about it ever. Now, where's the Chang'e 4 right now? Down next to the South Pole, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But the first, I think it was like first or second photo came out, complete annihilation of information in those photos. Sad. Go check it out if you think I'm kidding. It's absolutely sad. They're taking this right out of textbook of NASA, completely covering this crap up. And I always tell people, listen, you don't want to believe me? Don't, please. I'm not here to drill it into your head. I don't want you to do that. I want you to research it. That's what my channel's all about. I tell you what I think it is. We speculate. Guys, what is it? And I give you the link to everything we do so that you can go get the photo yourself and analyze it yourself. That's what it comes down to. It's to open your eyes and be thought provoking. And that's what it's all about, right? I know you do the same thing here. You may say, this is what I believe that it is, but we can't touch it. We can't smell it. We can't taste it and anything else, you know. So all we can say is, this is what it appears to us. What do you guys think it is? And that's what it comes. It's the interaction. That's what's awesome. And you know, when I don't know how many of my subs are here saying, you know what, Chris, I started getting into this myself. I've got Photoshop now. I can't believe the things I've been seeing. And I tell people to use a magnifier like this one here, because it's got the other little magnifier in there too. These things are phenomenal. You don't want to zoom in too much at a lot of these photos. They break apart. When you use this and just do it, you'll be amazed what you see in these. So yeah, absolutely interesting. Did you want to just cover a couple of these real quick and then jump? Let's see.
Hey, Chris, Jerry
Yeah.
Lahane from Odin, Iceland is in here. I wanted to mention that. And Crazy A says we're both dope. Now, look, you think we're too old to understand what that means?
Oh no,
No.
that was back in the day when
We
I
know
was.
what
I was
we know
dope
what
back
being
then.
dope is, even though dope's meant several different things through the years. I grew up in the '70s, man. So you know, hey, I understand what you're talking about. The Peace Trinity. She says, please do a call-in show so I can talk to Jimmy mouth to ear. Oh man, is my wife down there? I tell you what, look.
Doghouse.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about, and you know what? I like that idea, but we've got to we're gonna have to get somebody to do some vetting on that, because you cannot imagine the people that could get a hold of our ear if we don't do some vetting on that. I mean, most of you are borderline above okay, but I mean, there's a few people out there. You know, when you got thousands and thousands that are coming through your channel all the time, just 1% of those that want to find some way to be ugly, send nasty grams,
Oh
and are
yeah.
out to get you for whatever
Yep.
reason, they're going to show up. And man, you don't want them in your ear. And I've thought about looking into that already. And
I've done the same.
yeah, if we can do that, we'll figure out a way, because I do understand. So, what do you want to look at, Chris? Here, did you have another
No,
image?
no. I was just gonna say, just address a couple of the questions
Oh,
or
okay. Well, do
comments,
you
and
see
that was
any?
pretty much it. We'll close it out.
We're sorry for it. You know what? My co-producer was going to be up here looking through these images and helping, but my co-producer is down there preparing a Thanksgiving food. So I told her, don't worry about it. You know, we got it, but it's extremely hard. And I will go back actually afterwards, later, maybe even tomorrow, and I will be looking through all these hellos and everything. I saw so many on here, and I would like to say hello to everybody. And I try to catch all the names. You know, Bailey Stoner, he says ham radios are dope. You know, there's a couple of guys that are saying. We got Zach Odin Son, Zuluk 1000, Leslie Warren, Isaac Abrams, and we got
Who'd you say that guy was
Brain
from?
Yak says thanks,
You said-
Jimmy, and it not
who-
Brian, it says Brain Yak. So
Oh,
Brainiac,
okay.
Brainiac. These names, some of these names are great, man.
Now, who was that one from Iceland? There
The,
was somebody from Iceland.
I believe the Iceland Odinson, Odin Odinson.
Right.
You got Iceland here, and I believe there was another.
Well, it's funny you said that because, like I said, my first contact. Well, I shouldn't say my first contact. I'd be lying. But
I
when
gotta
I used to,
go ahead. I gotta apologize to somebody
oh,
after you.
when I was used to talk on the radio quite a bit. You know, I'd be pumping out about 1,000 watts. I used to talk all over the world, and and this guy will know from anybody from Iceland or Greenland would know this. One of my contacts was from Faroe Island, and Faroe Island is between Greenland and Iceland. And it was the first time this gentleman ever talked to the states, and they were on what they call a de-expedition, which means long distance communication. And it was just wild because he was just talking to me, we were just just having a conversation. He's like, "Hey, if you don't mind me asking, where you from?" I said, "Rhode Island." He said, "Rhode Island, what's that?" I said, "It's basically the armpit of the United States. Just look on the very East Coast." And he got a kick out of that. He says, "Well, I'll tell you what, this is the very first time I've ever talked to somebody." I said, "Where are you at, if you don't mind me asking?" Which is your QTH. when you're talking. And he says, I'm over here in Faroe Island. It's Faroe Island. Now I got this big old map in front of me. I go, Faroe Island? What the heck is that? I look, oh my God. I mean, you're talking way past, I mean, you're talking time zones plus, right? Um, but so, it's really interesting. You just don't realize the people you meet out there and just some of the crazy stuff you hear and just really good people out there, right?
Well, I've got to apologize to our Nederland friend, uh, Oosterhout. Oosterhout. Now,
Oh,
I said Renee, and it said yes. It's here in the Netherlands, 2:45 in the morning. But I'm a man, Jimmy. I got a lot of capitals out there. Okay, I understand. I said Renee. I don't know how you pronounce that. Reen. Look, Marcia, Missy, and I love the Netherlands. We visited there once. We spent a week there just a couple of years ago, and we were in Amsterdam and Marken and a few other places, and we were extremely impressed by not only the red light district. We walked through the red light
Rockland.
district, and Marcia and Missy says, "Where do you put the money?" I said, "For what?" She said, "For the dancers to dance in the windows." I looked at her. She said, "Those aren't the." I said, "Really?"
It's like, what?
She said they look like models. I said, "It's the Netherlands." The most impressive thing was the way that country does so much with so little land. I
Right.
believe they're number 3 in the world in agriculture behind the United States and France. And they've come up, necessity, breeds the creativity and so on and so forth. And man, those guys, they're constantly having to pump water out. So they've come up with all these systems of pumping things with those windmills. And
Yeah.
we're really impressed with this country. And you're going to have to tell me how to pronounce your name, because I got to tell you, I found out that Vincent van Gogh is Vincent van Gogh.
No, yeah.
It's van Gogh. That's basically it, so it's really tough. It's tougher than German. And
That's a little easier on the tongue if you say it that way, so it's not too bad.
well, the Germans
But yeah,
in a
I've
lot
always
of
called
stuff
them.
with that sound, but those guys over there started with that sound, like, and I was like, I'm not making fun. I'm just saying it's difficult.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've always called them Rene van Oosterhout.
Oosterhout.
So,
Well,
so if I've been saying it wrong, then my
I
apologies
tell
as
you
well.
what, Oosterhout, send me an email at marsfam.net and spell it out. And if you can't spell it out, send a voice, because you're on here a lot, and I would like to pronounce your name correctly. I mean, you're up in the middle of the night. So send something to Jimmy at marsfam.net, and I'll get your name right, because, I respect your language and culture, and I don't want to be offensive. It's a total accident. I only learned a few words over there, and your name was not one of them. Now we're about to get off of here. I'm gonna let Chris say something before we get off. We don't want to take it past 2 hours for sure, or people may come to get us. Chris?
Yeah, we don't want that. But good luck with them. They come to my house. But anyway, no, it was great being on here, Jimmy. I do appreciate it, and I appreciate your time. And it's all great. I mean, I'm you can see me turning my head every now and then. I got another computer here, and I'm watching the same thing all you are watching at the same time. So I'm seeing all the great people on here, and I got a lot of subs in here from my channel as well. Hop on over and check out what we got over there as well. And I just everyone be safe. Have a good Thanksgiving to all. I know I'm going to fill myself until I'm going to probably have to jog to the moon just to burn it off. But yeah, so it's been great being on here, and I do appreciate it. And we'll definitely have you on, man, because we like to. You guys don't know me and Jimmy. It's like we sit there and it's like just being another brother from another mother kind of thing.
Yeah, well, definitely we'll sit and have these conversations hooked up like this. I'll make him. I'll talk to him from the Enterprise. We'll just be hooked up on Zoom, Skype, whatever, and he's got to deal with it like this. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's
No,
like
I actually,
God, what the
on the
hell?
phone, whatever, and we sit there an hour or two and go by, and it's really difficult. And I try to remember all the things that we talk about, because there's a lot of subjects that come up, but most of it has to do with this stuff, but a lot of it doesn't. And everyone pay attention to Chris's channel. He's got some stuff coming up really soon that's really important. It has to do with
Oh yeah.
with a friend of ours, and we're not going to bring that up today, in respect. And
But just the stuff here,
yeah,
some of the ancient stuff here will blow your mind. And this is what we've been trying to get at, where just here we're just learning to walk.
yeah, that's correct.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting, pretty cool stuff.
So everybody, listen, we appreciate everyone being here. And Dave Gannett, I know you're out there, and that's another guy I respect that is really careful with what he does. He's a 3D master. He taught me
Master.
the 3D stuff. and he's you know,
Oh,
like,
Dave's awesome. I met him personally down
yeah,
in the Mars
yeah, and
conference.
I
He's
haven't
awesome.
yet, but even when I was in Boston, we missed each other. But we'll get him on here too and show what's going on his channel, because he's another guy that really is careful about what he does and looks things over. And I love the way that he describes stuff. It's different from the way I do it,
Yes.
and it's different from the way you do it. He's
Yep.
got his eloquent
Absolutely.
way of saying, you know, what this looks like to me is this could be a blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And we've all agreed it doesn't matter if we disagree with how this happened, what this is, how this happened on Mars, what
Mm-hmm.
is the history of the moon at this point. There's just a premise that we agree with, and that is we are not alone. We've probably never been alone, and that Mars obviously had a civilization there that has been
Mm-hmm.
destroyed somehow. We see this plainly, and this is something we agree on, and everything else is discussion, and we are trying to get to the bottom of it the best that we can, the best that they will let us with what they have given us. And as long as we stay there, there's not going to be any trouble. Uh, Chris, I think we're going to sign off here. And
Yeah.
again, those who are not subscribed to Chris's channel, Mars Anomalies and Beyond, it's a fantastic channel, and I will be popping in over there in probably a couple or 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And who? Martian Missy is back here. Hello. Hey, Hey, we're shutting down here and heading to sick bay. Martian, I told you somebody was coming to get us. No, I'm
Mm-hmm.
just. Hey, go. We're heading to sick bay. We're gonna sign out here, and I will be back in a couple of weeks, and I will let you know who the guest is going to be, and we'll have a video coming out before then. And y'all hop over to Chris's channel, subscribe to it, and this is important. Everyone needs to subscribe to these channels and hit that extra bell to be notified, because I'm not sure everyone's doing that. We are not propagated like we were. Google doesn't like us like they did, and
Oh yeah.
so
It's crazy how much they're censoring us. I
yeah,
mean, they're literally.
it's called ghost censoring.
Yep.
I guess you would call it. They will not share our videos as suggested videos anymore, but they have
Nope.
not shut us down, you know, at least. And also, you can go to marsfam.net, where we're putting up evidence of from Mars and other moon evidence. And we're going to have, hopefully soon, we'll get Chris's evidence up there, or links over to where you can get it from
Mm-hmm.
marsfam.net at the very least. Whatever works, because we want this stuff to be easily accessible to you. So when someone says, "What do you mean you believe all this stuff? There's nothing but fuzzy pictures." No, we'll have you a place to go where you can go one right after another and say, "This stuff's not fuzzy," and you can see where it came from and how to get it yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what we're after. So everyone, until next time, y'all stay cool and safe, and we
Yep.
will see you soon. Chris,
Peace, guys.
thanks for stopping in, man, and adios till next time, y'all.